That sounds fun. That sounds fun.
Hi, friends, and welcome to a very special episode of That Sounds Fun. I'm your host, Annie F. Downs. I'm so happy to be here with you today on a Saturday. Hope you are enjoying time with your people, rest from work, and some college football on TV. Go Dogs. Today is the official birthday of That Sounds Fun podcast. 10 years ago today, the first episode released. Yes, of course, we've been celebrating all year. You can't be surprised about that. But I couldn't let the actual day of the start of the podcast come and go without pausing and giving thanks for you and with you. 2014 seemed to be a year of lots of creating, of birthing new things, of change and growth. Jimmy Fallon and The Tonight Show, Seth Meyers and Late Night, Jenny Allen and The If Gathering. Those are the ones that come straight to my mind when I think about who I have seen celebrating 10 years. But then I just got an email from Thrive Market that they are celebrating 10 years as well. Grateful for that. One of my favorite podcast sponsors, for real. In 2014, I had written a few books for teen girls, but that summer, 10 years ago, my first book was released that was written for my peers, for my friends, for other adults trying to figure it all out. Let's All Be Brave. The title came easy and early for me. That's usually true for my books. I wrote that book to just tell the stories that I had recently lived, moving from Atlanta to Nashville, moving from Nashville to Edinburgh, Scotland, and other daily moments of fear that gave me a chance to choose courage. While there is certainly a lot of growth and change in me and my life since I penned that book, it remains one of my favorite things I've ever written. You got Let's All Be Brave in your hands in 2014, and that book and your experience with it made way for my first 100-day devotional to release, 100 Days to Brave. And the popularity of that particular book has changed my whole life. 2014, what a year. That's when I got a call from Ted Decker's PR team. My friend on the team had seen me host an event, maybe do a live interview on stage or something, and wanted to know if I'd be interested in interviewing Ted. Okay, two things. Number one, I loved Ted Decker's novels. Absolutely loved. I remember my first years teaching school when there were days I would literally rush home from my classroom to get back into one of his novels. So this felt crazy, getting to talk to someone I was such a huge fan of. No way. And number two, I did not, in fact, know how to interview people. Now, I will tell you this about me. I used to pretend to interview people all the time. I would ride my bike around the pond beside my parents' house and pretend I was interviewing myself. Yes, I was also the one answering the hard-hitting questions. Hilarious, I know. But I actually did not have any expertise or practice or skill in interviewing. I just really liked talking to people. I still do. So I said yes. I did not say yes because I knew what I was doing. I did not say yes because I was an expert. I said yes because I had just written a book called Let's All Be Brave and felt like I would be a real liar if fear of failure stopped me. Something Christine Kane said one time has stuck with me forever. It serves me in asks and requests like this. Invitations to speak at conferences, events, or churches, and even in friendship and dating. She said, their invitation is your permission. If someone else invites me to an event, that is my permission to feel welcome, to show up, to be fully me, to have confidence that I am wanted in that space. So I chose to believe Ted Decker's people that I might be able to do this thing that they thought I could do. I wasn't sure, but if they were, sure. I asked her where she wanted to release the interview. At that point, I had a Twitter account and a blog. Instagram had barely started, so I assumed she was going to take the recorded conversation and post it somewhere online in the fiction writer and reader universe. But instead she said, "Have you ever thought about starting a podcast?" And before I really thought about it, my answer was, that sounds fun. A phrase I said all the time, still do. It rang true. A light bulb went off in my head. I hopped on my computer and checked to see if that podcast already existed. It did not. So I grabbed it and began the journey of launching my podcast. I started by purchasing a Yeti microphone off Amazon. I would record episodes around my dining room table. No soundproofing or quality editing. Just me talking to a friend for 30 minutes and then spending 6 hours editing it and adding music. Brutal. I didn't do many shows that year because honestly, the editing lift was too much for me. But the bug to make a show had bitten me and I knew I wanted to do it. I called my friend Chad Michael Snavely, a podcast editor and producer I had known for a while, and he had just moved to Nashville. I asked if he would be willing to come on and edit my show, something I honestly couldn't afford easily, but really believed it would be an investment that would pay off, and it sure did. I recorded episodes at my house from about 2014 to 2016 or so. And then Chad upgraded me to a little black soundproof booth in a shared workspace, and that's where I would meet guests to record. We did that for a few years, 2016 to 2018, until I moved into an office at Crosspoint Church, where Chad came and set up all the recording gear there. Jenna, my executive assistant at the time, now our podcast manager, would sit at one desk in this tiny office. I would sit at the other. And when it was time to record, we would switch. The guest and I would sit at Jenna's table and we'd record a show. That was 2018 and 2019. And you can go back and listen and sometimes hear church staff laughing outside our office door as we recorded. I loved it. 2019 is when we moved into our current office spaces, where I have this, my own podcast studio with a sign on the wall and everything. I record about half the That Sounds Fun podcast episodes here. The other half are either virtual at my apartment in New York or in person at the Hepzibah House podcast studio in New York. Chad edited the show for years until we had the amount of recording, editing, and producing that required a full-time staff. And that's when Johnny and Craig joined our AFD Inc. team. Craig was the in-house engineer and videographer. Johnny does the producing and editing for every show. Over 10 years, we have made 900 episodes, had over 100 million downloads, and heard from hundreds of guests, shared many laughs and many tears. I absolutely love this part of my job.
That sounds fun. That sounds fun.
I could have never known back then, 10 years ago today, that releasing that first episode would open so many doors and opportunities for me. More than I can count, honestly. It has brought all of you into my life, whether it's on the streets in New York or at a speaking event or at a coffee shop in Nashville. Wherever you guys stop me and say an episode that mattered to you, it means the world to me. It honestly feels like anywhere I go, there is a chance one of you is there. There's a chance a friend is in the room. I love that. That Sounds Fun has given me opportunities to meet actual heroes of mine and sit across the table from them and thank them. I would start to list them here, but you know I'd forget one and I'd regret it for the rest of my days. But I'm still stunned at who says yes to joining me across the table. It is more than I deserve. Our guests are the best part, aren't they? It's just incredible, the variety of people we get to meet. It has long been a joy when my friends become friends with my friends, which is what I feel gets to happen every episode. That you guys, my listener friends, get to meet and feel connected with our guest friends. The way you support them with your words and with your money when you buy their books or music or tickets to a show, it's incredible. It's actually what people say behind our backs. That Sounds Fun listeners are different, and they can change a guest's life with their support. It is so cool, y'all. You remember that's pretty much our core value for guests, right? It has to be someone I'm already friends with or someone I really want to be friends with. I'm not great at talking to strangers, but I can chat it up with anyone I already love or anyone I wish I knew. I love doing it. Because of this show, I also got to be a co-host on the Relevant podcast for a while, some of the funniest days of my life. That's where I really met Eddie Kaufholz, who has become, to all of us, a treasured friend and a voice on the show. We also launched our own podcast, Annie and Eddie Keep Talking, born out of the first days of COVID when I was locked down in my house alone. We would record in the morning, send it off to Chad Snavely to edit, then post it mid-morning. Those daily shows of early 2020 turned to weekly shows for about a year that are now monthly shows here on this feed. I also got to start the Mini BFF podcast and Let's Read the Gospels podcast, two other shows that serve different people in our audience, and I love both those shows so much. That Sounds Fun podcast is also how I got to be the co-founder and co-owner of the That Sounds Fun network, where our incredible staff supports over 30 podcasts with community and advertising. This podcast also opened up the door for my first ever show at the Ryman Auditorium. I had only been to the Ryman a few times before I started dreaming of doing a show there. I couldn't figure out how in the world I'd ever be able to get on that stage, but I sure wanted to. I actually talked about it on this show. Many of you earlier this year reminded me about this clip from Christmas 2022. Here's a moment about the Ryman with comedian Nate Bargatze.
Ryman, there's just something, the way the sound comes back to you is, I haven't really heard much like that. Like it just swallows you.
Yeah.
And it's so great.
Our whole team went last night together to Behold the Lamb of God, Andrew Peterson's show.
Yeah.
And as I was leaving, I said, because we toured the podcast.
Yeah.
So as I was leaving, I said, okay, I'm 41. We're very close.
Yeah,
I think
40, I'm 42.
Yeah, I think we're class of 98.
97.
97.
Yeah.
You're the older guy. I said as I was leaving, before I turned 50, let's play this room.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, we'll do it before that. I was like, great. I'm just saying.
50.
Before I turn 50, I want to play the Ryman.
Yeah, that's
just the one. That and the Fox, because I grew up in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So the Fox. But if you do the Ryman, you do the Fox. Like,
yeah.
They just are in the same tour.
The goals, like the goals of like being 50, I'm a big goals. So like your goals, I think have always got to be attainable.
Uh-huh.
I think.
Are you about to tell me to settle down on the Ryman?
I'm like, I'd go 60, all right? Annie.
You're like, Annie, I came all this way.
I'm going to be honest with you. 75. Let's hope by 75, 80.
You need to stay alive, is what I'm saying.
The bottom is full at the Ryman, Annie. You're 95 years old. We got the bottom full, and I think that's just great.
We told them this was your funeral, so that's why they're here. No one paid to get in. You rented this out with your own money. Before I turned 50, that was my goal. Little did I know, less than 2 years later, we would get to gather in that sacred room, laugh our heads off, have some of the most special moments in my career, probably of my life, and make lifelong memories, all in celebration of 10 years of the That Sounds Fun podcast. Over 2,000 of you were in the room with us, but that's just a fraction of the friends listening today. So I thought it would be fun to grab our old pal Eddie for a few minutes, who was an integral part of the night, and recap it for you here. Eddie, here on the birthday of That Sounds Fun, the actual 10th birthday, we have to talk about the 10th anniversary celebration at the Ryman Auditorium.
I would feel more comfortable starting this with a full band and a walkout music situation, because that's kind of what I'm into now.
Could you believe? Okay, when you walked on stage, because you came on stage early, what'd you think when you saw the full band?
Well, first of all, I'd never been in the Ryman at all.
Oh, you'd never even been in the building.
So I just need to tell you, like, from a special standpoint.
Yeah,
like,
tell me. I don't know any of this.
I, first of all, I've never been treated so special. So I get greeted outside, right? The Uber ride from hell had just finished.
Do you want to retell that story? We might need to.
Here's the quick story. Sorry, I'm just derailing the story.
We have to. No.
All right, so I shared this at the Ryman because basically I was still rattled and everything I had prepped for the Ryman just went out the window. Here's what happened on the way to the Ryman. So Brienne and the minivan that we had rented and the kids and the everything are coming like an hour later. So I take an Uber in, lovely woman picks me up, but it was like a lady that was driving and a co-pilot. And you don't normally see two folks in the front seat, but they were both nice. And then the whole way there, the lady in the passenger seat kept saying to the lady who was driving, okay, in about 15 feet, we're going to come up to a stop sign. Okay, we're going to merge up and right. So at this point in the Ryman, when I'm telling this story at the Ryman, Annie gently interjects, which is why I realized I need you there, because you're like, was this person? And you just kind of like trailed off, and I was like, blind. And you're like,
I didn't know how to ask it because I wanted to like. I mean, it is not wrong to talk about people who cannot see, cannot hear, cannot feel, taste, touch. Like they're
I know
friends of ours, but I just thought, is someone driving a vehicle that cannot see?
This is the question. This is so. We get there safely, but I'm telling you, the whole way was okay. We're coming up to whatever boulevard.
And would they talk in between? Like she says, okay, we're going to turn right on Church Street. And she'd say, okay, and turn right. And then they'd be like, so I think the recipe I'm going to make is.
Oh, they're chatting and they're listening to rap music, which I actually really liked it, but it was also the most intensely, I don't know how to say it, but like, can I say like sexual? Like it was just
it was vulgar, right?
Oh, it was like blushy, kind of like, oh my God. And they're just listening to it and giving directions. And I'm just sitting in the back seat in my little stage outfit with my little bag in my hand.
And
going,
they're taking you to the Ryman Auditorium.
Right. So I get to the Ryman, I get out of the Uber and just kind of like, okay. And like, kind of, I'm like, I got to hold on to this and let go of this in an instant. And the really cool thing was like somebody like met me outside, like the team
Adam,
that
right?
was doing
Adam Brutman?
Yeah,
our tour
met
manager,
me outside and brought me in. I've never been to the Ryman. Took me in backstage, and like you walk in and there's like pictures of Dolly there. You're like, oh my God, and walks me around and
gives you a credential, like one of the hard plastic,
hard plastic with you on it, and it's like all go anywhere. And I'm assuming we're gonna go into like the main auditorium, and the next thing I know, I'm like, oh my God, I'm backstage, and we're like, I'm standing next to. Like I'm about to walk from the wing onto like the wood of the stage, and I just like stopped, and I just said to him, "I've never been to the Ryman," and he goes, "This is a really cool way to do it." And the band plays, and I walk on right to the middle, and I see you, and then it's all Annie and Eddie keep talking fun, right? Like it's all just like there you are. But it was like the first time I saw it was looking in that direction, and it was like that was neat. So
tell me what the girls thought about the Ryman. Oh, you're welcome, by the way.
Yeah, no, really, thank you. I think the as a theater and as a historical object, I mean, we told them, but I don't know that they had the significance of it.
Yeah.
I think they were absolutely blown away that like people clapped. Like when I came on, like
people didn't clap when you came on. They lost their ever loving minds when you came on.
They were just blown away that exists
for their
their father's world. And like they both just kept saying afterwards, like, and you said this, and people like really laughed. I was like, I know, I'm as surprised as you are. I think they were just like, they just never seen it, because you never see a pod. Like, we don't know what's happening right now.
Yeah, that's right.
It's always just been you and me. But all of a sudden, you like pull the veil back on it. And we're like, oh my gosh, it's all of us. And this is what it's actually like if we were all around the country sitting in a room together right now.
Yeah.
It was.
And we knew, I mean, when you came on tour with us when we went to Baltimore.
Yeah.
Winter of 22, I believe. Mm-hmm, and that's when we knew that Annie and Eddie Keep Talking has a live version, has a like in-person version that people enjoy.
Yeah. There was something. So it was a thrill on so many levels. The most of which, and I gotta like say it and get past it, but was to like let like that some of the closest people in the world, of which there's you sitting next to me, there's Brianne and Eve and Lucy and Sarah and Emily and like people that are just like, and Amy and just like core people we got to do that together. And I was just a real thrill.
It meant a lot to me. It would not have been the same without you. No, it was, I mean, I think people will hear this clip in this episode, but when Nate Bargatze was on That Sounds Fun, I said, I just want to play the Ryman by the time I'm 50.
Yeah.
And so to like, and you know, he and I joke back and forth about it and whatever, but it feels like that place is just so special and you feel it the whole time. Yeah. But there is also this other, like, I was kind of out of my body the whole time because I was like, I knew what was coming almost every minute of the show, and it was mine to drive the show. So I'm also like trying to experience the show, but also keep the show on time, drive the show, be in the Ryman, recognize who all's in the Ryman, but also put on a really good show for the people that were there. So I still feel like months later, I still feel like it's a little bit of a, I don't know what just happened for me.
Totally. Well, you can't. Okay, I have so many. I just realized, like, I just burned through my story. I was telling my whole story at the beginning in the first couple minutes. I know.
That's why you're here.
I know. But I also am like, I am just endlessly curious, like, why the Ryman? Because, like, I get it from a country music perspective, but, like, my version of this would be a different theater. Like, why the Ryman for you?
Oh, which one is yours? Where's your, like,
it would
dream
be
Eddie Koffelt's show?
In 30 Rock somewhere.
Oh, totally it is.
Right. It's something like that to me would be like, if there was ever like a camera one on me at 30 Rock in any situation.
Yeah.
I think I'm like, that's
okay.
That would be why the Ryman for you.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Ryman symbolizes for me my moving to Nashville. Like the Ryman is kind of the spot that has been consistent across my entire Nashville life, and I've sat in that pew when I had no books out and when I had all books out, you know, like when the podcast didn't exist, I didn't sit in the pew. Well, I guess I did beforehand, but to the 10-year. And so I think for some reason that building really holds for me personally it holds it all to me. That's the building that holds it all to me.
Yes.
And it is hard to get to do, and it is expensive. It's an expensive building to pay to be in.
Right.
And so genuinely, every time you see someone do a show there and not have to cancel it, every star had to align. And so I think I knew that. I mean, when we were in the decision making about, gosh, Eddie, I mean, I bet we really started talking about, we announced the Ryman in February. The show was August 11th. We announced it in February. We were in negotiations fall of 23.
Gracious. Wow.
And so we were decision-making summer of 23 about a fall 24 10th anniversary. And we had some real conversations about, are we sure this is worth what it takes to do the Ryman? And here are some other options. What about these other options? And I just kind of was Ryman or bust about this. Or Ryman or no show was kind of like, if we're doing a 10th anniversary, it's the Ryman. If we're not doing the Ryman, we're not doing a 10th anniversary. Boy. And everybody agreed. I mean, it ended up being the right for the whole team. It just felt like the building that I wanted to introduce people to. I mean, our mission statement is that we bridge people. We bridge people to other people. And so I wanted to bridge people to the Ryman too. I wanted to take them somewhere that mattered to me.
Boy.
I thought I felt the same way about the Fox Theater until I did the Ryman. And now I'm like, no, it's not the same. I would love to play the Fox. I would love to do you and me doing a live show at the Fox Theater would be a ball. It would be a ball.
Yeah.
I don't have the same feels.
I don't want to like put meaning where there's not. So
sure.
Is there any aspect to it that like the Ryman was a church and is kind of still in its own way? Like there's like stained glass and.
Oh, I mean, like it was built for revival, right? I mean, I said a little thing at the front of the show. There's something about being in a place that was built because what God was doing could not be held anywhere else.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel about the podcast. I mean, we started That Sounds Fun because what I was being invited to do did not fit anywhere else in what I was making. And And so I think there's some correlation there for me that the podcast a little bit feels like in a world where God invites you to do something where the building doesn't exist, build the building.
Yeah.
And so I think that feels really profound to me too for the Ryman and the podcast.
Yeah. That Ryman, that building is like, even if you're not a country music fan or you're not a Nashville or you don't have the same, like, there is like, it's steeped in the wood.
Yeah.
There's a lot of music. There's a lot of prayer. There's a lot of time. There's a lot of everything just steeped into that wood, like it was.
And this may be an Annie thing, but you would not be surprised to hear me say that if you go there for a worship night, it's incredible.
Yeah.
But if you go there for a Mumford and Sons, because when the music has meaning, when the music has meaning, it's meaningful in the Ryman. And so worship nights work there, but Mumford and Sons works there too.
Well, and it's so tight in a good way. Like that's close.
There's not a bad seat.
2,300 folks. Like our family was. There was like that little section up at the top, and I could see him the whole time. Can I tell you?
Tell me about that. Tell me about when you sat down and looked out, and there are legitimately almost every seat was full. So there's just face. I mean, what did that feel like?
Well, it felt particular. There were a couple of things. I think. First of all, it was not at all overwhelming. So it was the most. I'm used to that kind of speaking in different rooms. A lot of it's like preaching or pastoring in a church. It's like different. This was like the most stocked room. Like every single person at least knew and loved you at minimum, and probably by extension has heard of and possibly has listened to me. Like,
yeah, that's right.
To the person, like someone I've never seen before. And so it's just like, everybody was really happy and everything was like, so like they were just tracking so hard with you.
Yeah,
like
that's right.
Man, I got to tell you, I wish you could have been backstage hearing everyone process you as you're doing it. So first of all, during rehearsal, you're running through your monologue, right? And you're running through slides and you're checking it all. And everybody was just like, she continues to like nail it perfectly, exactly on time. And we're like, she's not reading anything. And everybody was just like, look at what she's doing. The whole MC element of it, the fact I didn't realize the degree to which you were both hosting the show and also like interview. You were the whole thing. You weren't the show, but like I was the
conductor.
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
And that was nuts. That to all of us. You had like a little list in front of you that was like bullet points. Mine said Eddie, Diet Dr. Thunder. That's all my bullet points said.
That's because we couldn't forget that we had it in the cabinet. I didn't want to forget it was in the cabinet.
I know, but all of the other stuff, all of the other things you said, everything that happened.
Okay, but except, do you recall that every guest, I had a list of questions, and I did not realize until you and I were sitting on stage in the show that I had left every question backstage in my dressing room.
I know, but also, Annie, I sat at the side of the stage. I know they brought the questions out to you, but like what people should also know is I'm sitting at the side of the stage. They gave me a great seat, like right there.
Yeah.
We're all watching it. You never looked at the note cards. You were just like maybe there was a glance once or something, but like it was just like.
But the safety blanket was very helpful.
Oh, it was.
I mean,
neat.
I'll never forget the moment where I realized I forgot the cards, and I say to you, we're going to go off the rails. I've forgotten my cards. They're in my dressing room. And then we're like, well, I guess we're going to talk about whatever we want. And then suddenly here comes the production manager. It's like they knew exactly what they weren't going to let happen.
Oh, no. They were just like, Annie doesn't have cards. Let's get cards. You could just,
so we got, everybody kind of knows the guests that we had and all that kind of stuff. But the other part that I want you and I to for sure talk about was the game show.
Oh. My gosh.
Okay. So it's you and me playing against Knox and Jamie from the Popcast, which I think the four of us on stage together is a long-held dream for many people, including the four of us.
Oh, 100%. I was like, this is the ultimate playground.
Yeah. Oh, because one of them, Knox or Jamie, said that they are you and me on gummies. Which I think is so. But the comparisons are wild that he's a married dad and y'all's personalities are more similar than mine, and mine and Jamie's personalities are really similar. It is funny.
And
but
that we've never all really talked about it, but we all a little bit know, and we all have our own lanes and are great with it. But it's like we all get it, right?
Yeah. Right. Okay, so you knew we were playing. This is the behind the scenes that I've been waiting to spoil here in this particular episode. Mm-hmm. You knew we were playing a game.
Yep.
And you knew that I was going to bring a surprise guest.
Yes.
And I had told you, Eddie, I think I've got the surprise guest, and I don't think it's going to work out.
Right. And just to be clear, it didn't work out. I just want to in case people are guessing, the person wanted to. There was a solid reason they couldn't.
There was a lot of and it was just kind of a floated to that person. Was there a chance you'd be able to? And that person isn't in Nashville, and we had a list of a very short list of 2 to 3 options. Because what I wanted so bad was a moment that people would not know what to do with their bodies. That's what I wanted. I wanted their cortisol.
You said that exact thing.
I wanted their systems to malfunction. Yes, that's what I wanted. And
personified, sorry to interrupt, but personified in Jamie, who really did not know.
Did not know what to do with their body.
And did not, immediately cried, immediately just bending into overwhelming.
Yes.
It was just watching her was and then looking out, and everybody is just, there are people with their hands on their head going what? You know?
Because our shortest list.
Yeah.
Of the 2 people we would hope to do it, one of them did.
Yeah.
And it was thanks because you said something in passing I wonder if it would be someone like an Amy Grant. And I couldn't say to you, oh my gosh, it's going to be an Amy Grant.
Yeah. So I had, right. I said it. I didn't know it was,
So when you had, because you'd have been the only person in the room who had an idea that her name could have even possibly been attached. So were you surprised when it was her?
No, because her name was on a dressing room.
And you saw her name on a dressing room.
I did see her name. Here's why I was extremely surprised. Because there is no framework for Amy Grant walking towards you and giving you a hug.
Even if you see her name in the building, you don't know what to do when she hugs you.
I see her as a black and white image of whatever that video was. Every
baby, right?
Right. I see her on stage at the Ryman singing. I don't see her as a lady walking towards me. And so that's when it was watching everyone, knowing this was happening. And then
the standing up and sitting down that the audience did, don't know.
Don't know
what to do. They didn't know what to do with their bodies. It was such a dream come true. I've told you repeatedly, that is a feeling in my body that will never leave. I can tap back into that moment when everyone saw her and just be flittered with joy.
And then
also, did you like how we did her introduction different than she and I are the only people who came out?
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Amy Grant doesn't enter from the side.
She
comes center stage.
Yes.
Whoever, that was such a little touch that was magnificent.
Yes.
You enter from the middle.
I'll tell you the other little touch that changed the show to me, and it was Jamie Crockett, one of my managers' idea, is at the end where she said, why don't you end the show like you end the podcast?
Oh, yeah.
And say, if you need anything else from me, I'm embarrassingly easy to find. And as soon as I started that, people got emotional.
Yeah.
And I did, and the audience took this big breath, knowing that it was ending. And those 2 moments were tiny and clutch for building the right show.
I don't know what it is with those things, but a through line in all of podcasting has been those little things mean so much. And I guess they do to me too, but it becomes almost, I don't want to but it becomes a little liturgical. Right?
Yeah.
But it becomes this this was this thing that I remember hearing 50 times at the end of really profound moments in my life or really funny moments.
Yes.
How much do you get wash your hands or Bye Buddies
right.
or
Bye Buddies.
Right?
People
We
felt
said-
that when we recorded in August about 2020 and you said
Right.
Bye Buddies.
Right.
Multiple people commented that it made them feel emotional. Yeah.
But it's that little. But the
Yeah.
weird thing is, I bet people feel that so often. But you're saying it to an empty room and a microphone,
Yeah.
and there you
Yeah.
were looking at some of the most dedicated of all of the people.
Yes.
Right? I know people couldn't make it, and you're very dedicated as well. But I am saying, right, the ones that were there actually cared a lot more than you. But that's not true. But like, it's, yeah. So you said it. Did you break up at all, or did you? Because I kind of felt like I heard a little hitch
A
in you.
little bit. And also my brain froze. So
Okay.
my emotions froze and my brain froze. And then I caught back up. I had a glitch in my personal system.
Isn't that funny though? The
know.
things you did and didn't freeze on were
Right. What can I tell you? My favorite part of the actual entire show is when I asked Amy Grant, or I asked y'all, do y'all have anything else to say to Amy Grant? And you said, "Do you remember meeting me 18 years ago?" I have not ever laughed that hard. I don't know if I've ever laughed so. That's my favorite moment of the show. I had nothing to do with it. My favorite moment of the show.
I have been looking for it, but we were backstage at the Grand Ole Opry. Bree and I were, when we were brand newly married. We got to go backstage with my dad. We were at some golf thing, whatever. And there she was. And I said hello to Amy Grant. And she was lovely. And she squared up with both of us, had a lovely conversation, was very, very generous with her time. And she does that, 20 times a day?
For sure.
Like,
I'm sure.
there's no possible. And I was so tickled. I was so tickled. And she
And
was
watching
so
Knox
sweet.
and Jamie, I mean, I don't think I realized the level fan Jamie is, Jamie Golden is of Amy Grant, because she cried real American tears.
and was
on that
telling
stage.
her off microphone. Not so that everyone could hear. It wasn't jokesy time. Like, I had your tape when I was whatever. I'm like, you're just really losing it.
Yeah, it was amazing. I could not. I mean, that
loved
could
it.
not have been.
Oh, yeah.
Truly, couldn't have been any more entertaining.
It was so magical.
It was so
was so
fun. I
ma-
thought the game was fun. I thought,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I just found it all to be, the game was so secondary to the four of us just joking around and Amy Grant hosting us.
Her standing there, just holding a card so sweetly, waiting for the four of us to quit our just tomfoolery until she just feels like it's the right
Yeah.
moment to read the next thing.
That's right. That's
I
exactly right.
that sweet. I mean, she's a pro. She knows exactly
Yeah,
what she's doing,
yeah.
and she knew. And then she pops in with the little. I gotta be careful because it's different there than it was. But she made a very adult reference on
And
stage
then
in front of everyone.
slapped
And-
herself on the face.
yeah, and it worked fully, but it was also like, oh, Amy came to play. Okay, Miss
It
Grant.
was, it was incredible. And then when she left, people couldn't recover. Emily Freeman was there and videoed it,
Oh.
and watching the crowd not know whether to stand up or sit down about Amy Grant at the beginning
Oh my
is the
gosh.
feel that the rest of the show had. The show never recovered from
no,
Amy
no.
Grant
No.
coming on stage, which was just a dream. It was just a dream.
Okay, but also, can we? I have to rewind. Can I rewind to the beginning of the show?
Yeah.
Happy 10 years.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Like, is this the podcast that will come out on 10 years?
Yes. This is on the day.
But is there other stuff?
Tell me more.
I guess I'm just realized, I think it just hit me. Am I on the podcast on the 10 year?
Yeah, you are. I don't
Thank
know.
you.
Honest to God, I don't know if there are other guests yet because we haven't
don't
built the rest
care.
of the show.
I don't care if there are more. There's plenty of pie for all of us. I just realized what was happening.
You are for sure on the 10th. 10 years ago, this actual day, we released the first episode ever.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we're talking about the Ryman. I have circled up in space and time. That's how long
Great.
the rubber band was from the beginning of the show till right now. And it just snapped because I was like, hold on. This is I got to ask you, outside of the time that we were up on stage together, you had some crazy moments. And this is, I don't know what you want to talk about or not, but like watching from the side, I'm like, Annie is doing a really incredible, like you had the Lady A just come up and sit in front of you and
singing.
all three of them, like
Oh my
right
gosh.
there.
Them and Kane. Kane was the other surprise
yes.
guest. And hearing them sing, when you actually hear people sing in the Ryman, you're like, oh yeah, this is what it was built. It was built to sound like this.
It turns on. It's an instrument. Yeah.
So the other Easter egg for everybody listening to know that I don't think they know is that the band leader is someone from the Lady A camp. And so so when they turn around and say, play the chorus of Need You Now, he of course knows how to do that. And so,
sorry to interrupt, but they didn't even say that. They just said E.
Oh yeah, so they said E. You're right.
Because I was like,
E.
they don't know what song it is. They just know the chord.
Yeah, that's right.
Play E.
That's right.
He plays E. So
and then they go into it, and then they're able to do the whole thing. Oh. That will go down. And I have about 15 memories. We haven't printed any pictures yet. Yeah. I know we're going to make a thing to hang in the office and to gift some people and all that. But I took a class one time from Seth Godin, a business guy.
Yeah.
And in the class, we weren't allowed to take notes. And he said, the reason you're not allowed to have your technology or take notes is you never take notes on a date. You just remember the parts that matter most to you.
Wow.
And so he said, when you take a class from me, you don't take notes until you leave. And when you leave, you can write down whatever you remember. But while we're here, I just want us to be here. I feel that a little bit about the Ryman, where I'm kind of like, I have all these really specific. Now I've seen a gazillion pictures because people have been kind and tagged me and posted, and our photographer Will did an unbelievable job documenting it. I haven't held any yet. And so I feel this, like, there's still these little moments in my mind of like when Demi was on stage, or when Jenna Claire and I were doing like New York, can dance, like all these moments that feel so, that are so alive in my memory. I hope seeing them in printed picture doesn't kill them for me, you know?
And it won't, because it will only serve to trigger. I mean, I guess I'm saying this because I can look at a wedding photo, which I know.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And I'm like, I don't see the perspective. Like, I'll look at Brie and I looking at each other, and it just takes me immediately like into myself looking at her.
Oh, good.
And I'm like, you'll look at. I predict you'll look at these in a way that will just be like, or right back to those moments, or right back to. You asked at the beginning, and I just blew by it. How about that band?
How about that band?
Holy smokes.
They are so talented. I was like, what does it look like to put you on retainer in where I don't have to pay you in money? Can I pay you in like Cracker Barrel gift cards? Because I can't keep you on retainer, but my gosh.
Oh, man, they were just
so good.
And it just elevates things in a way that you get why the Roots bring out Jimmy Fallon. Like, it is undeniable how
it's different.
They just raised the whole place.
And they played in between every guest. They had a different song for every. Did you die laughing when they had "Happy" as your song?
I did.
I loved it. I was like, y'all don't even know his personality, but this is perfection for Eddie's personality.
It was so funny. And
it was so funny.
Yeah.
It was so funny. Great.
And I loved,
You loved what?
Oh, I just loved getting to, like, watching you walk out. You know, I did the quick little voice, like, introduction thing.
The voice of God, as it's called.
The voice of God,
People knew it was you immediately, Eddie, which I loved.
But how watching the lead singer sing the Annie podcast song was real good. He's real good.
He's real good, yeah.
That band really played the heck out of that song. Yeah. And then you walking out to it, that was special.
It is so. I mean, the fun thing I don't think I've got to tell you is when we were doing the rehearsal the 2 days before, we rehearsed on Friday, and so every one of those movements has to be practiced because the furniture's there, and originally there was space between the chair and the couch for me to walk through down the middle.
Oh, right.
But then when you're sitting in them, that doesn't make for good conversation.
Yeah.
And so we had to rework the furniture. So then how do I get to the center of the stage when I have to walk around the furniture? So that's why I went and fist bumped the band leader, because we had to get me around the furniture to the center of the stage in a way that made sense.
Funny.
Yeah.
And so funny.
It changed the whole thing. We changed the rehearsal. I wish we'd have recorded the rehearsal so people could see how we got to what they saw.
I wondered, because you guys when you all were practicing, it was so like, okay, and then Annie's going to come out and fist bump. I'm like, why are we scripting? It makes sense.
Yeah, we had to, because I couldn't get down the center. We had to have a way for me to get around the furniture that didn't look like I was just walking around the furniture.
You asked me this question. what was it like for you looking out there? Because you knew
Oh, yeah.
20 times as many people as I did. You got your whole family there.
I could not see a person that I knew for the life of me.
Is that good or bad?
I can't tell you the difference. I don't know. I don't know if I'd have liked it more if I
It's
knew
what
where
it
people
was.
were.
Yeah.
I just did. I mean, manager Jamie had kind of told me the sections where our people were sitting because we had people kind of all over the place. I knew where a single purpose league was. So I kind of knew sectionally, but no, I couldn't see anyone's face. I was 8 people that night. And so I just could not, one of the people couldn't be find your friends in the audience. I couldn't be that Annie.
Right. Yeah.
Which it makes me sad because I want people to be like, did you see me? Like my nephew Sam, did you see me? I'm like,
Oh, no. Is that the little boy that I met before the show?
yeah, redhead.
That kid's precious.
Right.
And that kid really likes you. That was
know,
like,
we like each
oh,
other.
that
He
dude
likes
is going to
all of us.
remember. Pre-show, you were playing it. You were doing a great job with being an aunt. You brought him up and they did the whole thing and the band and the whole deal. And he was just very quietly tickled about the whole moment.
Yeah,
And it was
he
very
loved it.
sweet. He was a perfect
The
little gentleman.
background on my phone I'll show you is a picture. I mean, he's at Atlanta time zone. And so the show ended at 9:30 Central,
boy.
so 10:30 Eastern, way past his bedtime, but he hugged me as he was leaving.
Oh, dying.
Can you see?
Look
and
at
it's the background
Look
of
at
my
it.
phone. I mean, just
that-
who can deal with that? It's so cute. So, okay, we got to wrap this, but I just I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Is there any other, I mean, the popsicles at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Did
And
y'all
just
get popsicles? Yes.
I did not, but everybody else
Oh,
was eating
sorry.
popsicles. I mean, I would say the other favorite part was I think I would have planned it differently, but it was late. Kids were tired. We're all and so when the show's over and we've said like appropriate goodbyes, we're out of here. But I was like, everybody was just hanging out outside. And I was like meeting folks and it was like, it was amazing. And, and then we had to go. But just that afterwards vibe, it was like, I wonder how long that lasted. And because people didn't really scurry.
Do you know what's interesting is the
me.
Ryman said that has never happened before.
That's really kind of as much
really
of an
cool.
accomplishment as maybe anything.
know.
Like if you
Well,
zoom
I mean,
out,
it just
what
says
that
a
means.
lot about our friends listening that they like each other.
Right.
And
that's
that
exactly-
means a ton to me.
Yeah.
That's that. There's this book that we've been talking about at work, and it's an old Seth Godin book called Tribes. Do you remember it?
Uh-huh.
And what Seth says is your real goal is to connect people and then remove yourself. You've really, a tribe exists when the leader, quote, quote, doesn't have to be in the middle. So if you can get people to, so you and I are a Saturday Night Live tribe. No one from Saturday Night Live has to tell us to talk about them.
Yes,
We
that's
just
right.
do.
Yes.
And so what I feel like we're experienced at the Ryman is a tribe experience. If they didn't need me there, I'm the connecting tissue. But they don't need me to stand around and talk to each other while eating popsicles. They need a popsicle and a reminiscing time about the show.
Right. Yeah.
Me too.
And
I had a popsicle and talked to people out there too.
yeah, it was funny how quickly we were able to not be on stage and in lights and with microphones on us. And
Yeah.
it was just like, hey, we're all here. Look
Yeah.
at this thing. Isn't this neat?
Yeah.
We just did this thing together.
Originally we had on Saturday night, we had what I called the after show party, even though it was the day before.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't bring people backstage. We couldn't bring the amount of people backstage that I would want to bring after the show.
Yeah.
And so we threw a party Saturday night instead. So I made sure I got to see everybody. And now looking back, I didn't factor how tired we would be and how late it would go. But if we'd have had a party afterwards, I would have been a zombie.
Yeah. What was I know we're wrapping up, but were you immediately or was it 2 a.m. and you're just still wired?
Oh, literally 2 a.m. And I was laying in bed looking at pictures. Oh yeah. I mean, I was up way too late.
I cannot believe what a thing you did. I cannot believe I cannot believe the presence on stage, the amount of I mean, it was just really okay, this is what 10 years of professional, high level, doing this does. It was crazy how effortless you made something very, very hard look. And then also, I finished the rehearsal real quick. I'm getting a little nervousy and like, oh boy, this is a thing, you know?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I wonder where Annie is. And you're up in the thing doing a meet and greet and people are chit chatting and whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah,
you
Harvey,
did a
happy,
whole
yeah.
other thing between the two things that I did.
Yeah, yeah.
I can barely walk. Can I quick show and tell? I just wanted to show this. Like, and you got to sign this and we're
The
going to have it
hatch.
signed before it's framed.
Yeah.
You have a hatch print
I
with
have my
your
own hatch
name
print.
on it.
Wild. I know. And didn't it turn out beautiful too? I
Of
mean,
course
we
it's
like
beautiful, but this is like iconic. This is
I
like,
know. It
this
feels
is
that
like,
way.
it's hard to describe what it is other than you have a hatch print.
Isn't that wild?
I mean-
and you know, everything you're saying is very kind. Thank you. And also, the reason I got to be effortless is because there were about 40 people, legitimately, probably 40 people top to bottom who worked backstage behind the scenes for weeks before and up until 4 hours after the show that made it
Yeah.
possible.
Totally.
And so you're right that it was 10 years of podcasting culminating right there, but it's also 40 people's work.
Totally.
My team, my management team, the network, the stage crew, the production team, the tour manager, Adam, Nick, our production man, like it takes a lot of people to pull off a 2-hour show.
I am sure that when you were standing up there was like a moment where you just looked behind you and saw 40 sets of footprints.
And I had none of them were mine. None of them
That's
were
when
mine.
that's when you were being carried.
And you know
You
who
under-
actually had me in their arms? Amy Grant. She was the one physically carrying me. She
It's
carried
an
me.
almost perfect metaphor.
Eddie, where would I be in podcasting or life without you, bud?
Can't
imagine.
Same as you. 10 years.
Can't imagine.
Privilege and congratulations.
I mean,
Happy-
you are 8 of the 10 years. We're going to be celebrating your 10 years on That Sounds Fun in 2 years.
Oh yeah. We're gonna have a party over at kind of a local coffee shop. 5
Yeah,
people
good,
show up.
good.
No show. My brother
Great.
can just play guitar for us. And
No, we're going to do something at 30 Rock.
well, I
What do we
was just
do? Do they have little theaters we can rent? We could do something at 30 Rock.
little theaters.
I mean, I don't think you can, right? You can't do a live show at 30 Rock.
Honest, if I
Unless
could
you're-
just ride the elevator up and down, I would be fine. And so I think that's appropriate.
We could do a pop-up show at 30 Rock, but I think you get arrested for that.
Yeah, where you're just busking out front.
Yeah. We're just going to do a podcast episode, a busking podcast episode, in hopes that Jimmy Fallon will stop and speak to us.
Like, hey, you remember
Maybe
when I
one
was
of
on your
these trips
show?
to New York, I'll make friends with Seth Meyers. And I'll be like, can I just borrow your studio
Can we just
when you're on
hang?
vacation?
Yeah.
And he'll be like, yeah, for sure. Okay, you get one meal in 30 Rock and one host gets to eat with you. It can be or one person who works in 30 Rock. It can be a Saturday Night Live cast member. It can be Kelly, Jimmy,
current,
Seth.
Can we just make it current SNL cast? 'Cause
Only
it's gonna-
current. Yeah, I'm talking you walk in the building on November 22nd and you sit down to eat and someone sits down with you because they work there. Who is it?
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Hold on. Are you gonna have your answer ready?
I don't have my answer ready yet, but I will by the time
Think
you're
about
done.
it. I think I asked Keenan Thompson where we should walk to grab good bagels around town.
It's Keenan. That's a
And
great
Keenan,
answer.
because Keenan has the whole lore. He knows everything, and
he
he's
knows everything.
super cool. And I think he's going to know where a good meal's at. And I'm
Yeah,
going to go
you're right.
take a walk with Keenan.
Boy, what a perfect friendship, Eddie and Keenan. You're right.
I would be thrilled, and not just because of everything he knows, but he just seems like a really cool temperament,
Yeah.
good person who also, if he would indulge my, he would show me where the Jim Henson drawings are in 30 Rock and all the things that I've always wanted to see. What about
Yeah.
you?
If someone is just happenstance sitting down with me at the 30 Rock Cafe, I hope it's Jimmy
Yeah.
Fallon.
Yeah.
If it is someone that I'm getting to learn from as
Yeah.
far as how do I write better, how do I seeing Seth Meyers do stand-up is an absolute masterclass.
Oh, I saw him and Jost together one time, and it is. he
I
is.
would love to see them together.
Seth Meyers, of course, we devolved into this. Seth Meyers has written and created the modern SNL more than people think. Like he is. That's a good answer.
Yeah. I saw him, I think I told you this, I saw him and John Oliver in New York, and I just thought,
Oh yeah.
I can't believe I got to watch I've learned so much from watching him do stand-up. I laugh too, but I felt like this should be a college course that I get credit for. He's that good.
It's watching Chris Thiele play mandolin, and it just looks so easy. But you're like, oh, this is beyond mastery. This is ownership of it. Like this is beyond training and good. This is special. Yeah, Seth
Let
Meyers.
me circle around and ask you if you know which venue I saw Chris Thiele play the mandolin in, and he played the song Lighthouse, and it almost made me cry.
The Ryman.
The Ryman.
Yeah. Oh, how could you not? That
The
song.
Ryman.
That song, if you were in a Burger King, would make you cry. That, like, much less in church. My goodness.
I know. Thanks for doing this. Appreciate you.
Pal, what a privilege. What a
Always a
privilege.
treat.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was truly the best night. And one of the reasons we were able to do all of that is because of our incredible sponsors. One really cool moment that happened too is Ashley Furniture provided the living room set and the desk where I got to interview each guest. You've probably seen the pictures, the gorgeous green couch, the perfect desk that I was sitting at. But what the audience didn't know at first is Ashley Furniture allowed us to gift all of that furniture to our friends at Connecting Kindness, who are providing support to refugee and immigrant families here in Nashville. It was so fun to bring Donna from Connecting Kindness on stage and get to surprise them with that gift. The furniture was going straight to an apartment of a refugee family. So a massive thank you to Ashley Furniture for sponsoring the show and helping us make that happen for that family. When that celebration in August at the Ryman was getting closer over the summer and many, many times during the Ryman weekend, people asked me, what is next? It's a natural question, right? If you're pausing to celebrate a milestone, it makes sense to assess things then and decide what happens next. If you are at all in the podcast scuttle world, meaning you hear something about the business side of this world, you know it has been a challenging year for podcasting. It's been brought on by changes in algorithms and technology, changes in listening patterns of the audience, changes in the amount of podcasts available to us as listeners, changes in advertising partnerships and opportunities. It's been really hard for all of us. As a result, many shows have stopped making new episodes altogether. Some have moved to the subscription model, which allows for less advertising but costs the listener directly. And some podcasts are still grinding it out, doing the best they can to keep making the thing they love for the audience they love for as long as they can. And that is us. It doesn't mean we won't ever change models or rhythms. I support all the shows who are doing whatever they can to keep making what they want to make. In fact, I pay for a few podcast subscriptions myself. But for now, that isn't our path. I go back to a question my agent asked me a few years ago that has become a mantra in our companies, both AFD Inc. and the That Sounds Fun network. What does this make possible? And that question gets me excited. What does this, all of these changes in the industry and quantity of shows make possible? A lot. You like what we did the first 10 years of this show? Stay tuned. It's about to get even better. Changes in an industry like ours make lots of things possible, and we are going to do lots of things, so stay tuned. Prayers and dreams and hopes for this community make lots of things possible, so stay tuned. A brilliant team behind me in this show, helping us pay attention to what you need and want from this podcast every week, makes lots of things possible, so stay tuned. When the old way of doing things doesn't work like it used to, we get to make new ways, and we are going to. So stay tuned. As for the details of it, mark your calendar. Monday, January 6, 2025, Epiphany. Literally, make a note for yourself in your calendar to listen to the first That Sounds Fun podcast episode of 2025. We drop it at 4 a.m. Eastern. You don't have to listen to it at 4 a.m. Eastern, but you can. Between now and Epiphany, we continue to celebrate the last 10 years with the most thanks going to the teams at AFD Inc., H Squared Management, TSF Media, and That Sounds Fun Network, and our guests, and you, my listener friends. By the way, it is no accident our Advent series that begins on December 1st is titled Stay Tuned. Do not miss this. You can get it at anniefdowns.com/Advent. Join us starting December 1st. Here is to 10 beautiful years of That Sounds Fun podcast, where God has truly done more than we could have ever asked or imagined. And I've got a pretty good imagination, honestly. And he still blew my mind, continues to. I hear him saying the same thing to me, to us, that I just said to you. Stay tuned. And we will. So happy Saturday from us, and happy 10th birthday, That Sounds Fun podcast. If you have any questions from this episode, you can drop them in the Q&A box in your Spotify app if you're a Spotify listener like me, or send them to us on Instagram at That Sounds Fun podcast. We'll try to answer them there. And make sure you are following the That Sounds Fun podcast Instagram feed, particularly before Epiphany. You want to be there in 2025. So go ahead, hit follow today. If you need anything else from me, you know I'm embarrassingly easy to find. Annie F. Downs on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok now. Annie F. Downs, TSF. Anywhere you may need me, you can find me. And I think that's it for me today, friends. Go out or stay home. Do something that sounds fun to you this weekend, and I will do the same. Today, what sounds fun to me is driving to my family for the holiday week for Thanksgiving here in the U.S. I cannot wait. Remember, Advent starts next Sunday, December 1st, so grab everything you need at anniefdowns.com/Advent. Hope you have a beautiful rest of the weekend. Thank you for celebrating That Sounds Fun podcast with us as well. And we'll see you back here on Monday with one of our favorites, Sadie Robertson Huff. Y'all have a great rest of your weekend.
That sounds fun.
That sounds fun.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Check 1, 2 on the microphone. Annie F. Downs in your car to your home. Every week it's something new. A deep talk or an interview. She'll make you laugh, she'll make you cry. When it's dark out, she's a light. When you're down, get you feeling right. Oh man, that sounds fun.
That sounds fun.
That sounds fun.
Oh.